In the first lecture, I explained why physical clutter raises your cortisol, exhausts your prefrontal cortex, and keeps your amygdala in a constant state of low-grade threat detection. If you have not watched that one yet, I recommend you start there, because understanding the mechanism is what makes the protocol stick. But now we move from understanding to action. And I want to warn you about something before we begin. Most decluttering advice fails. It fails because it treats the problem as a storage issue. Buy those bins. Fold your clothing this way. Get rid of things that do not spark your joy. That approach ignores the nervous system entirely. It treats your environment as a design problem rather than a neurological one. What I'm about to give you is different. It is a protocol designed around how your brain actually works. Its threat detection architecture, its limited cognitive bandwidth, its need for closure, and its dependence on environmental signaling for automatic regulation. I call it the 4-zone protocol, and by the end of this lecture, you will know exactly what to do, why it works, and in what order to do it. We begin where your brain is most vulnerable. Your bedroom. Your bedroom is the environment where your nervous system must transition from sympathetic, alert, scanning to parasympathetic, restful, recovering. But here is the problem. Your amygdala does not make this transition easily. It regulates environmental signals of safety. What signals safety to a brain that evolved on the savannah? An unobstructed field of vision, no hidden threats, clear sight lines, environmental predictability. Translated into modern terms, you need to be able to see the floor. You need the space around your bed to be clear. You need the eliminate visual complexity. So, where is the Zone 1 protocol first? Here is the Zone 1 protocol first. Remove everything from your bedroom that does not serve sleep, intimacy, or dressing. Every other object, the exercise equipment, the desk, the laundry, the stack of books you intend to read. Each one of those objects is sending a signal to your brain. There is work to do here. Second, the floor must be visible. All of it. Not mostly. Not except the corner. The entire floor. When your brain can see clear pathways and open space, it registers safety at a subcortical level. First, no visible electronics. Not on the nightstand. Not on the dresser. Not on the floor. The LED lights, even tiny ones, disrupt melatonin production through photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, specialized photoreceptors that detect light and signal the suprachiasmatic nucleus to suppress melatonin. Fourth, your bed should face the door. This is not feng shui. This is evolutionary biology. When your sleeping position allows you to see the entry point of the room, your amygdala registers a defendable position. It is one of the oldest safety signals in the mammalian brain. Some of you have been sleeping in the room that is telling your brain every night that you are not safe. You do not feel it consciously, but your cortisol does. Now, Zone 2 is whether you do focused cognitive work. Your desk, your office, your kitchen table. And here is the rule for Zone 2 that changes everything. Your workspace should contain only the objects relevant to the task you are currently doing. Nothing else. Not last week's mail. Not a stack of books for future projects. Not free mugs. Why this matters neurologically goes back to the principle I introduced in part 1. Every object you can see competes for the attentional bandwidth of your visual cortex. And because your brain applies the Zeigarnik effect to each of those objects, registering them as open tasks, you are trying to do focused work while subconsciously tracking a dozen unfinished obligations. That is not focus. That is divided attention with extra steps. Look at your workspace right now. Full picture of you are not there. How many things within your field of vision that have nothing to do with what you are working on right now? That number is your cognitive tax rate, and you are paying it whether you know it or not. The Zone 2 protocol. Before you begin any focused work session, clear everything from your visual field except what you need for this task. This takes approximately 90 seconds. When you finished a task, clear the space again before beginning the next one. This is not busy work. This is a deliberate transition ritual that signals to your anterior cingulate cortex that the previous task is closed. Closure allows your brain to release the cognitive resources that were allocated to it. And at the end of your work day, the surface should be completely clear. This is what I call the blank state principle. When you return to your desk the next morning and see nothing but clean surface, your brain registers. We are beginning something new today. We are not behind. That is a dopamine signal, anticipation of a fresh start. Compare that to arriving at a desk covered in yesterday's debris. Your brain registers. We are already behind. That is a cortisol signal. Same space, same work, completely different neurochemistry. Zone 3 is the one most people ignore, and it might be the most important of all. Your digital environment is a sensory environment. Notifications, unread emails, open tabs, desktop icons, app badges. Every single one of those is a visual signal entering your brain through the same retinal pathway as a physical object in your living room. Your amygdala does not distinguish between a pile of physical mail and 4,000 unread emails. Both translate to unresolved demands. Let me say you something you would like. Some of you are carrying a digital environment that is functionally equivalent to living in a hoarder's home, and you wonder why you cannot focus. The Zone 3 protocol. First, delete every app you have not used in the last 30 days. If you need it later, reinstall it. Right now, each app icon is a micro decision waiting to happen. Should I check this? What if there is something? These are cognitive resource drains. Second, disable all non-essential notifications, all of them. If a notification arrives and it is not from a human being trying to reach you directly in real time, it does not deserve the interrupt your attention. Your attention is the single most valuable resource you own, and notifications are other people's priorities inserting themselves into your cognitive space. Third, unsubscribe for every email newsletter you have not read in the last 2 weeks. If the content matters to you, you will seek it out. If it does not, it is just another open loop, another unread item in a list that your brain registers as unfinished business. Fourth, close your browser tabs at the end of every day. All of them. If something is important enough to keep, bookmark it. Tabs you keep open in case you need them later are cognitive anchors. They wait on your working memory every time you open your browser. This part is hard. I know it is hard. The digital environment feels like it does not count because you cannot touch it. But your brain processes it the same way it processes your physical environment. The same visual cortex, the same attentional bottleneck, the same cortisol response to unresolved demands. Zone 4 is your living space, your recovery environment. This is where your nervous system is meant to downregulate after a day of cognitive demands, and it cannot downregulate if the environment is sending competing signals. Zone 4 protocol is simple but non-negotiable. Every evening before you begin your wind down routine, every surface in your living area should be clear. This does not mean deep cleaned. It means items return to where they belong. Dishes in the dishwasher, mail sorted or discarded. Cushions straightened. Remote control in the same place every single night. This takes approximately 5 to 7 minutes, and it is the single most effective environmental interventions for evening cortisol reduction that I know of. But here is what makes the whole 4-zone protocol sustainable. And this is where most people fail. You do not need a weekend purge. You do not need to become a minimalist. You need a maintenance system that works with your biology, not against it. The system is this. Every object in your life has a home, not somewhere, not over there, a specific designed location. And the rule is when you are finished with it, with that object, it returns to its home. This sounds simple, but here is the neuroscience behind it. When an object's location is predictable, your brain does not register it as an open task. It does not trigger the Zeigarnik effect. It does not consume working memory. The stress of clutter is not about the number of objects you own. It is about the number of objects whose location is unresolved. A library has tens of thousands of books, and it is not stressful because every book has a home. Your living room has 47 objects, and it is stressful because only 12 of them have a home. This is the reframe. You do not need less stuff. You need a system where everything belongs somewhere. I want to leave you with one final thought. When you clear your environment, you are not just tidying, you are signaling to your nervous system that you are a person who handles things, that you close loops, that your space reflects agency, not avoidance. There is an identity component to this that most productivity advice misses entirely. The state of your environment shapes your self-perception, and your self-perception shapes your behavior, and your behavior shapes your outcomes. If you live in chaos, at some level, not consciously, your brain registers, I am a person who cannot manage things. That belief modulates your ambition, your willingness to take on challenges, your sense of what you deserve. And if you live in order, the opposite occurs. Not because order is morally superior, because order signals competence to the same brain that scans the environment for threats, and competence signals safety. So start tonight. Zone 1, your sleep. Clear the floor, remove the non-essentials. Face your bed towards the door if you can. Then tomorrow morning, Zone 2, your focus zone. Clear your workspace before you begin. And then gradually, zone 3 and 4. You do not need to do this perfectly. You need to do it consistently. The nervous system responds to patterns, not perfection. Your environment is not separate from your nervous system. It is an extension of it. And you have more control over both than you think. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next lecture.